Did you guys enjoy that cheesy intro? Loki threw it together in 5 minutes. That's one I'm just going to use from now on because why not? It's fun. Hello everyone, this is Questorian here, and welcome back to a brand new video. So today, as you can see here, and as you can probably tell by the title, we are back in Mario Kart Wii for the first time since I last made a custom track. So essentially what I want to do today is just give a little bit of a life update. I know I've done that so many times just because I go on long hiatuses very frequently. And I also wanted to just take a trip through time and play some of my old custom tracks. And, obviously I think I was, most people considered me done with it anyways. I made it pretty clear I wasn't interested in doing anymore. But I just formally made the announcement that I am going to be done with Mario Kart Wii modding. And I did actually film this video before, and I tried to do sort of the life update part while I was playing the tracks, but I realized sort of that just doesn't work because I was talking way more about my own life and I just wasn't really talking about the tracks and I wasn't that interested in them. So I wanted to start off with a life update sort of thing. And yeah, just first off, essentially why I'm doing this is I want to just go back to some of my old projects that I had. Not in terms of creating tracks, but in just video ideas that I had. Because, if you don't know, I have a second channel called Questorian. I did have videos on there, old videos, that I really liked and I thought they were really fun ideas, and I just stopped doing them for whatever reason. I had videos that were great ideas, like exploring Super Mario Galaxy, that I really just want to continue with. I got through like 6 galaxies or something like that and just never really got through it. I also had, less fun ideas, or not less funny ideas, but less original ideas, like if I touch a color on a custom track, then the video ends, which I know it's kind of cringe content, but it was fun to make, I kind of want to do that again at some point, and plus it's more fun with custom tracks because they tend to have a less cohesive color scheme, so it's a lot easier to, make that interesting. And just a ton of other ideas that I really enjoyed doing, and I just never ended up finishing. Ideas that I never even made videos about, but were just a thought in my head that I had that I just really want to finish at some point. There's another thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this one yet, but ranking every CT Jam track. I did videos like that. I got up to like the first jam of Season 4 of CT Jams, and while I'm not necessarily involved with that community anymore, it could be good to look back at that because I was always sort of disappointed that I never got the chance to finish that and obviously I won't be able to finish everything because I don't have the downloads for some of the later ones. I have them all the way up to the point where I left CT Jams, and that's because there's a Google Drive folder that I made with all the downloads on it that was posted. And I don't think it's been maintained at all, so I at least the version that I have seen only has up until the point where I left. So I don't think anyone's been maintaining that. So I don't have the downloads for that, unfortunately. But, it is what it is. And I'm not sure how much I'm going to do of this, but, I just thought it might be fun. And in terms of life updates, why haven't I uploaded in 4 months? Because school and other life obligations. It's unfortunately just how it goes. I'm just sort of trying to focus on real life now because, for 2 years while I was in the Mario Kart Wii community, I sort of focused more on that than, living in the present. And and it sounds like hippie shit, I know, but I'm trying to do that more now. So, that's mostly it that I wanted to talk about, I guess. Just a lot of things have changed in my life for the better. I want to upload more frequently. Oh, and one other thing. I want to mention thank you so much for watching the last video that I uploaded on this channel, which was the tutorial for getting to the quote-unquote Phantom Stars in No Man's Sky. That's my most viewed video across both channels, which is including the custom track showcases, which are essentially just free views because you put them on the custom track wiki page and people watch it. And this surpassed all of that, which was insane to me because I checked it maybe like a month ago, and the time I hadn't checked it for like 3 months at that point, and the last time I checked it before I checked it a month ago, it was at 10 views, and now it's at well over 1,000 views. I'm not entirely sure what the count is now, but just thanks for watching that, because that was something I kind of figured. I was thinking, I'm not sure if people are going to watch this, and, I don't do things for the views or the subscribers or anything. Not that I don't want people to view or subscribe to my channel, but, ultimately, it does help to know that people are actually watching the stuff, because I did put a lot of work into that video, and I do like putting work into videos. This one isn't as much work. I did create like a whole custom track pack just to make this easier and more organized, but other than that, it wasn't too difficult. This I should mention, was created with Pactive by Billy Noodles. Very useful tool. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it if you're planning on releasing anything, but for something like this, it made it so much easier just to organize the stuff. So yeah, that's about it for that, and let's just get right into the tracks. I'm going to go through it on time trials just because it'll be easier for me to talk about the tracks a little bit. Not sure how many I'm going to get through because I really don't have that much time today, but yeah, and if there's anything else I want to talk about with life, I'll probably talk about it here, but I really wanted to get that out of the way first so I can focus more so on the tracks, because that was a problem that I had with the video before. I just wasn't focusing on the tracks as much. So this is the first custom track I ever made, and it really doesn't work. I made this sort of just to prove that I could make a custom track more than anything else. But yeah, it isn't a good track by any means. It's insanely buggy. It doesn't look right. All the textures are scaled way too small. This track has been improved since. It's not great, but it has been improved since. But yeah, there's not really much to go through with that one. That one's just sort of a first one. That's probably the worst custom track ever created. I mean, that's my opinion. That's what I've always said, but I'm not want to be negative about this because I'm not like really that negative anymore. I used to be a much more negative person. So this one is 39 Days. This is the second custom track I ever made. And this track, it's based on the show Survivor, which, if you know anything about me, I love Survivor. I've wanted to do videos on Survivor for a long time. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Because I have filmed videos and I just don't like how they turn out or whatnot. But yeah, this is essentially it's a Survivor related track, and it is very buggy. Like if you look over here, let's see if I can get it to do the thing, but if you go over here, yeah, that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to get launched in the air. This one's obviously pretty bad. You can't really tell what this was supposed to be, but this is supposed to be sort of the voting area at Tribal Council. It's not good. And then here you have this gigantic, stupidly long boost section because I didn't know how to bring it back to the beginning, so, yeah. Best custom track ever made. It's better than my first one, at the very least, but it's still not great. This is like a trip down memory lane for, some of my older tracks because, they really just weren't that good. But, there's something sort of nostalgic about it because this is when I started out before I started going try-hard mode with all of my tracks, and it was more so when I was first starting out and enjoying it a lot more than when I felt like I needed to make something really good. So yeah, it is nice to take a look at these older ones. Moving on to this next one because I don't have a ton of time, going on to Circuit Raceway, this is a beta, and I should mention these tracks are all in order from when I released them. I have most of them. There's like one or two I think that I wasn't able to get back. I just sort of made these a while ago, and yeah, this one is one that I made in a very short amount of time, and I remade it the next day because a lot of the KCL or collision is very glitchy. So I ended up remaking it the day after, and it doesn't look great, and granted, yeah, there's that. Neither does the version after. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because there is a version after it, which is essentially just the same, but a little bit better. Still not good, but it's a little bit better. Yeah, and as I said, this came out like the day after I made the original one because I realized the problems with it. This was a point where I was just pumping out custom tracks left and right because I created really not that good ones in a very short amount of time. Whereas towards the end, I sort of only made them sparingly, so I was able to focus on them and make them essentially how I wanted to make them. It's kind of surreal just coming back to this after, as I said, I haven't played Mario Kart Wii in such a long time. Obviously, I did do the video before this, but you know what I mean. I haven't played much Mario Kart Wii until I decided to do this video. And I should mention I am playing on emulator because I don't know what happened to my Wii. And I lost my Wii. It sounds so dumb, but I don't know where my Wii is. And that's not the problem because I have a Wii U that I know where it is, but I don't know where my Wii remotes are because I had them with my regular Wii, and I don't know where it all went. It should be in my house somewhere. I had brought it on vacation because there was a TV there, and I just felt like bringing it because it was a family vacation, and some of my family tends to go to bed earlier than I do, so I would stay up and play Wii games after everyone else had gone to bed. It was in my room that I stayed in, so I would do that, and and that was fun. And I'm positive it made it home because I remember making sure it made it home, but I don't know where it is now because I haven't seen it in about 4 months. And it's not like I've been looking for it all that time. I've been looking for it maybe like a day or two. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's basically that one. It's just such a very simple track, and it knows it is. Because I named it Circuit Raceway because it's just supposed to be incredibly generic. Alright, here's White Loop, a track which I submitted to be reviewed for inclusion on CTGPR. Yeah. Shocker, this got rejected. Oh my god, wow, that's so surprising. Obviously, it isn't good. I thought it was better than it was. I thought it was cool because I didn't really have a concept of how good a track needed to be to get into that. At this point, I just sort of thought, I think this is my best track, and there's other loop tracks in there that aren't that good. I didn't really know how old they were at the time, but yeah, I figured I'll submit it. It could be it could be interesting, and shockingly, it was rejected. Yeah, I mean, this track just isn't really good. It's so bad, but I think it is a step up from the stuff before, at least. I mean, it has a cohesive theme, it's not generic, it actually has some intrigue to it, and, the layout actually makes more sense. This does feel like such an old track, though. There's not really much else to say on this one. I mean, it's just sort of an old track that I used to think was pretty good. And now I just sort of look back and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this one. This one's kind of bad, honestly. And again, I don't want to seem like negative, but I mean, come on. It isn't a good track. But it's better than this one. This is SMG2 Sky Station Raceway, which is the next track that I made, and it is essentially just a port from the first planet of Super Mario Galaxy to Sky Station Galaxy. Why did I make this? I don't really know. But really, essentially what you have to do is just hop around the entire track. You can't go fast because you'll be sent off the edge. Here, I'll try and demonstrate. Yeah, that's what happens if you try and drift. It just doesn't work. I made this because I thought it'd be cool to make like a good model or something like that because it was so easy to do. But yeah, it's just not that good. It's essentially just that first planet, and yeah, not much else to it. And another planet that I ported from Super Mario Galaxy 1 this time is the first planet in Ghostly Galaxy, which I think it's better, but it's still just a circle. And I have a ridiculously low like speed modifier on this, so it's very slow and it's very glitchy, but it functions better. I didn't really demonstrate its functionality that well there, but it does tend to function better than the other one. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, you can actually drift around it, and the scale feels more proportional like in this one compared to the other one. So, I don't think it's good, but I think it could be worse. For my, whatever it is, for such an early custom track of mine, it's not bad. Especially considering the next one that we'll be going through. I think it's the next one. Let's just get to that right now. This one isn't particularly interesting. Again, just a circle. Not much to talk about there. A lot of these are just sort of ones I made early on that don't really have any relevance to, my legacy as a custom track creator. Like this one. This is a remake of a track created in Roblox, and I somehow managed to make it worse. I'm not going to diss the people who made the original one, because creating a track in Roblox is just insanely impressive, and I, pity the soul who decided to take on that task. But mine is just so bad. Why did I make this? It's a square. It looks worse than the original. The only thing it might do better is that it functions better. But, oh my gosh, I don't understand why I made this. I don't know what was going through my head and why I thought this was any good. It's just a square. It's legitimately, I don't really know half of what I was doing at this point when I was making custom tracks. I mean, I was 14, so it was like, I was just a dumbass. But, I mean, I don't really know how I was doing. There's not much to say about that one. It's kind of just embarrassing. So, I think I'm just sort of, like, not going to worry about that one. And here we have another remake of Grass Road, which is better than the original, but only because the original is one of the worst tracks ever created, because it was created in Paint, which it was very old. And this still isn't good. I don't want anyone thinking that this is actually any good. It's just not as bad as the original. This one's ridiculously long, too. Yeah, initially when I started making custom tracks, I definitely had early custom track creator syndrome, where just all of my tracks look just so noobish. And, as time went on, I got a lot better, but I mean, this is just embarrassing. Again, this is some of these are important, and I will acknowledge that they are important to sort of how my style went, but really most of these early ones don't have any level of importance to them. They're just sort of here, and I included them because I made them and for no other reason. Yeah, and this one isn't really that good. It feels like it feels like a 2013 track or something like that. Yeah, I do sort of think about stuff like this sometimes and how much fun I did have with it, but at the same time, I'm sort of happy it's done and over with now, because, like, just making something that actually looks good does take a lot of effort, and most of these tracks took me, like, 2 hours to design. Here we go, we have an actually important one now, but most of these tracks were so quick to design. I made this upcoming one in 4 hours, and it's by far my best one up until this point. This is Twilight Town. If you can't tell, it's the location in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. So it is not only the first Paper Mario track I ever created, which I created many of those, but it is the first CT Jam track I ever made, submitted to the Twilight Jam. And it got second to last place, only because the last place track was extremely laggy and just didn't work. It became sort of a meme after that, but this one barely stayed out of last place, and it isn't that good. Again, made in 4 hours. And here we have a joke track that I made in a very short amount of time, just on a whim. The track name, it's the hardest course harder than the hardest course harder than Mushroom Peaks. It's essentially invisible. It's a maze. It's 8 laps, and there's no mini-map to help you out. So essentially just there's no one would feasibly be able to beat this unless they used like a hack or something like that, or really invested their time into it, which I don't think anyone would. Here we have Cacti Desert, which is in the shape of a cactus if you can't tell, and other than that, it's just a standard desert. This one is one I remember making a lot earlier than I think I did. I honestly don't hate this one though. I did consider remaking this quite a few times. Obviously, I didn't end up doing it because I stopped making custom tracks, but I did consider remaking this a couple times because I don't think the layout is terrible. I think the layout has some level of potential, and I think if it was fleshed out and maybe made less flat, and there's so many opportunities for shortcuts here. I mean, I think it could end up being really cool, but obviously it was made so early that it wasn't cool. So yeah, I mean, not really much to say about this one. Moving on to the next one. I know I'm running through these pretty quick, but to be honest, most of these I don't really have much to say about. Alright, on to the next CT Jam track I made, which this is the first track I collaborated with someone on. This is Codename Wario by myself and Jaden. Jaden was someone I was very good friends with across my time in the Mario Kart Wii community. Just a really good person. I have kept in touch with him a little bit following me leaving, because he's also not necessarily as involved as he used to be. This one, though, it isn't that good, to be honest, because this was his third track, and obviously my, 13th track. I have a lot of fond memories of this because I did enjoy creating this track. And I do wish I had gotten to make another track with Jaden because he was fun to work with. But there are a lot of people in the Mario Kart Wii community that I do still keep in touch with to some extent. On to Crater Raceway RC1. So this was the first time I ever updated one of my own tracks, I think. And I essentially just made it playable. I mean, there was a playable version out there that someone else had made, but I wanted to make my own and make it sort of how I wanted to make it, I guess, because that other version did have some issues. Again, it's still not good. It's basically the same as the original, just it plays well and doesn't look as bad. But definitely still an old track of mine. But I do look on this track fondly, especially because the name Crater Raceway makes no sense. I was thinking it would be like a crater formed on Earth where it had been overgrown or something like that, considering it's all walled in. But that just doesn't really make any sense. I actually had plans to make a remake of it, but have it set on the moon. And I started it, I think, and I got I didn't really do much of it, but I started it, so there's something. Oh, here's another interesting one. This, I believe, was the first track I had created for the Super Mario Galaxy Custom Tracks project. I'm not sure if it started at this point, but that project was something I started with the aforementioned Jaden and Toxic Prime. That project was sort of just something where we wanted to recreate as many galaxies from the Super Mario Galaxy games and Mario Kart Wii as we possibly could, and we got about 3. I think we got a little bit more than that. That was something I did continue working on until sort of the end of my Mario Kart Wii journey, but this one was not a good start, but I don't think it was a terrible start. I mean, it's not good, obviously, but I think it looks substantially better than my other ones. And this is an updated version. It didn't initially have animations, I don't think, but I don't think. Emphasis on think, because I don't really remember, but I don't think it did. But, this track, it's fine. It's not good, it's not bad. I mean, it is bad, but it's not that terrible compared to my other stuff initially. But it isn't good either. So, I think it's just sort of fine. But it is important in that I did sort of start one of the first projects I had ever, big projects that I had ever taken on in regards to custom tracks. Now, potentially the final one I want to do today is the next one in the CG Jams tracks that I made, Song Speedway. This one is really important because this is the first track where I sort of figured out how to make road that actually has texture mapping. It took me a while to figure that out. None of my initial tracks had it. This one had some fun shortcuts in it, and I think it sort of stands out as substantially better than the stuff I'd made before. I did consider making a remake of this one too, because a lot of these early ones I wanted to make remakes of. Crater Raceway, 39 Days, Cacti Desert, Twilight Town, this one. Screw it, I'll cave, I'll do one more. Okay, so we'll run through this last cup, and then I'm going to be done because I don't have much time today, as I've said before many times.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
But, yeah. So this next one is called A Drive-Through Miniville. It is a very simple track that I made with just sort of an L-shaped layout. And it's sort of in a small country town. This is one where I tried to experiment a lot with specifically that shortcut. And you can see the cows, they don't work properly because I made this with C-Tools, which is not a good way to make custom tracks, shockingly. But that's what I used initially because it was easier. And that screws up the transparency on certain things. So yeah, that's why those cows look so weird, but this one, it wasn't that bad. I didn't make this for a CT Jam or anything, I just made it for fun. But, you know, I think this could be a lot worse, and I think it's relatively fun to play. It is very simple, but this was one where I tried to sort of experiment a lot. Obviously, the scale is a little bit wonky, but I think that one's fine. Alright, next up we've got the Spiral Sand Pit, which is the next iteration of the Super Mario Galaxy Custom Track series, which this is based on, I believe it's Sand Spiral Galaxy is what I based it on, and this one sucks. This one is so much worse than anything else. Like, I really am ashamed of this one. This one is so boring to play. I don't think the idea is that bad. It initially starts out with this sort of B Mario versus Boo Mario, but then I just sort of did this. And it's so long and boring, and I just don't think it's a good track, to be honest with you. I honestly think this is one of my worst tracks I've ever made. Obviously, it does look better than some of the other ones, but it's just so boring. It's so incredibly boring to play. So that's about it for that one. I don't want to spend more time on that one than I have to. Next, we've got SNES Donut Plains 1 Beta, which is based off of the beta version of SNES Donut Plains 1. And this one feels like such an old track. It's insane. It feels so old. Like, this feels like something that would have been created in, like, 2012 or something like that. Because I tried to, like, replicate the layout exactly. And for the second one, the SNES Donut Plains 2 beta, I did it in a better way. It still doesn't look good, but it's better. But in this one, it's just not that good. It's not a terribly interesting track. I do think this one's probably I'd say it's definitely my best one up until this point, but it's still not good, I wouldn't say. And the next one's more of the same, it's just with texture mapping. So let's move on to that one because these two are basically the same. Oh my gosh, it's so different. I forgot I made this, like, very bright. This was so bright initially. I think I did end up updating it. And it has a very slow speed modifier for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. It does have some interesting shortcuts, but the scale is even wonkier on this one. Yeah, I mean, this one, again, it's very similar. There's not really much to say here. So, I am going to do one more cup because that's such a lame place to end off. Next up, we've got Unsuspicious Lair, which is a very interesting track to me. It's not that good, but this was sort of the first track that I really tried to be creative with. All the other ones I had made before were just kind of lame, except for maybe like Twilight Town and some of the Super Mario Galaxy ones, but even those were based off another location. This is sort of where I was able to let my creativity fly, and I didn't make this for a jam or anything, but, you know, I was pretty happy with this one when it came out, and now I look at it, it's not good, but I still do have a lot of respect for this one, just because it sort of was one of the first tracks that I actually was able to be super creative with, and I think that it sort of influenced my creativity moving forward, because after this point my tracks, I mean, not necessarily right after this point, but after this point my tracks tended to be more creative. There's not really much else to talk about it. It's based on, I should mention what it's actually based on. It's supposed to be like just an inconspicuous house that has like a Bowser lair inside. I didn't really get that across that well, but I at least tried. And then we move on to something completely generic. Lake Eicher, which translates, it's like, Eicher is like Icelandic for, or something like that, for poison. This one is so generic, it's just a general loop around a poison lake. It's not that deep. I don't really like this one that much. I mean, it's not bad, and I think it is good because I did sort of slant the ground, which, you know, is more than I had ever done before. But I still don't think it's great. And there's not really much else to talk about with this one. It's just sort of a generic track. Okay, and now we've got the next jam track, which is the final jam track I made in Season 2 of CT Jams. And this is Bounce 3. Based on the first two bounce tracks, this one was created by me and a man Rezu, also known as Incognito, also known as Love Like and T-Pose 024. It's a track. I think this is the best bounce, personally, that I think has ever been made. I think it's actually pretty good. As far as bounce goes, this track exists. It's something. It is one of the tracks of all time. It's so jank that it sort of becomes a little bit like personable. It's a fun track. And it is actually possible to beat without falling in the water. It's just you have to be. It's very specific. But yeah, that's it for that one. Now we're moving on to the last track, which it's a test track. But this track is really important because this is where I sort of began to experiment with height variation within the road and sort of creating curvy road versus just flatter or relatively consistent road. And I made this as a test track, and I also was able to learn a lot more about animations through this. So this track I do view as incredibly important. It's not that interesting of a track, but its importance really cannot be understated. This track is so important, like, overall to me making custom tracks. It's insane to think that a lot of, you know, what I ended up creating, I learned a lot of it and started to experiment with a lot of it with just a simple oval Rainbow Road test track. And this one is really nostalgic for me because I remember making it and thinking, oh, this is actually cool, and I was debating on whether to release it because it was just a test track, and I decided, you know, I think this is good enough to release. And, you know, again, it isn't good, but that's not the point. The point is that I learned a lot from making this track, and I think that it really helped me become a better track creator down the road. That's about it for this video. Not really much else I want to say here. I hope you enjoyed this little life update and custom track thing. I want to get through the other ones. I've got quite a few more that I want to get through. I do want to do more content moving forward. I feel like I sort of left everyone hanging for a little while there. And as I said, I do want to go back to some of the old projects, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do other new stuff, because I have so much new stuff I want to do with other games. I have a good computer now, which is why I can record this with OBS. I want to play No Man's Sky. I can record that now. I want to play other games because I can record them now. You know, just the future's looking bright, and, you know, I hope you'll join me on the journey. Alright, that's about it for this video. I'll see you later.